So we had a particular rep who was very negative, but she was never negative in front of everybody. She was only ever negative to everybody personally, right?
One-on-one. That's how it works. People aren't going to get up in front of a room and be like, hey, you know what, guys, I'm going to pass out some bad energy. They always do it one-on-one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But everybody's caught on to it. It shows in her performance, too, and needless to say, it came to a point where no one brings it up to the manager because the manager is always so busy. And one rep that I admire came to me when it started to affect others very negatively, including my sister. And, it came down to it. I said, I think we need to have a discussion with her. She knows what she's doing. She's trying to be validated in her complaints and her excuses and all these things, but it was really just bringing people down. And, it was just...
It's contagious, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And your video, the first video you sent me last night, explained that entirely, And so...
Did that video help you?
It did help me, yeah. What I did is I brought it up to my manager and another experienced rep this morning, and I just said, this is what I've noticed. I've talked to so-and-so, like 4 or 5 different people on the team, and we're only a team of 12 now. 10 people have dropped. But,
sure, that happens.
But, he just said, we got to just all bring it up to her, and we need to do it together, us experienced guys. And she either has to change or she doesn't. But what my manager, Paul, ended up doing is, rather than talking to her tonight, he actually just called her and just said, I need you to do me a favor. And she's like, what? And he's like, I need you to go home. And that's, in reality, she just said, okay. And that's really all she wanted. She just wanted to be validated in the fact that she wanted to go home, and she needed it to be justified. Because in her head, she's no longer... Sorry, go ahead.
No. In her mind, she's no longer...
In her head, she's no longer quitting. She's being fired.
Right. That makes it okay, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and then she can go home and tell her stories that, well, they didn't want me there, and I think it's because, X, Y, Z, and she can blame everybody but herself instead of saying she's weak and becoming cancer on everybody else. It's a hard thing, for sure, when you're dealing with salespeople. The salespeople make a lot of excuses. I've never seen a group that makes more. And it's unfortunate for sure. But you can't motivate anybody. I think that's the most important thing for you to realize right now. If the pay plan and the opportunity doesn't motivate them, no amount of watching videos, you can get people watching videos, but the only people who are going to get motivated from that are the people who are already motivated. It's good to keep the juices flowing. It's like, I'm all about it. Like, I like Tony Robbins. But see, I've never had a problem with being motivated. So to me, Tony Robbins is just like, yeah, this guy's, I like the mindset. Totally agree with everything he's saying. Hey, that's a good point, Tony. Man, you're smart. But it's not like, you know what, I woke up this morning, I wanted to die, and now I've listened to Tony Robbins, and now I want to change my life. Now, I'm sure that does happen for some people, but it just doesn't happen for people in the sales force that I've ever seen, right? Or watching, the movie Rudy, though. Suddenly flip on the movie Rudy or read you something from The Secret, and suddenly you're like, whoa, I'm a totally changed person. It lasts for a little bit, you get excited, and then the problem is people realize they haven't learned anything new. All they've done is hear about somebody else's success, which is cool, but it's not really, and it's not your job to motivate these people. Sales managers, team leaders, they waste 60-70% of their time trying to do that. All they can do is minimize people from complaining and tubing everybody else out. And it sounds like you guys did. It sounds like you did what you had to do, which was to excuse the cancer. And sometimes that's the best thing. And I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I totally agree with what you're saying, because in the 3 years that I've been selling, it's my first instinct was to just go to YouTube and watch a motivational video, and there's like a billion that'll pop up, right? And yes, there are good lessons that come out of those things, but they really just kind of get you amped up in the moment. And then when things get tough again, well, it doesn't really last. And so
it doesn't last. Totally... I use the analogy of a balloon. It's all full of helium. It's great. It's awesome. And then 3 days later, it's like it's no longer in the air. It's no longer retained its shape. It's all drippy and squiggly, and it's laying in the corner. And just waiting for somebody to trip on it. It's dumb. And I think people are worse off than they were before. If you were to take this salesperson that you had to send home, if you had sat her down in front of a bunch of videos like that, the whole time she would have sat there, what do you think she would have thought?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
well, what was her feeling before? Like, what's been her feeling? What's she telling people?
It was a negative feeling, right? She wanted to kind of get everybody else on the same page as her.
Yeah, but what was her exact complaint? What was her exact point? See, people like this, they've always got their little manifesto. What was hers?
Well, I guess
the location sucked. She thought the product sucked. What'd she think?
Yeah, her first thing was, we were placed in a very, very bad market, and this place sucks, and I should be selling somewhere else.
Okay, that goes back to the whole, like, the leads are weak, you're weak. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with the location. Are there hard areas? Sure. Mm-hmm. Are there easier areas? Sure. But the problem isn't that. So she already made up her mind that there's a problem. And if somebody's made up their mind that that's the problem, that's going to be there. Not giving her any geography lessons, none of that would do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So my point is, if you sat her down, and that's her predisposition, if you sat her down and you say, hey, look, you're going to watch the movie Rudy, and then you're going to watch the movie about the blind side, about the giant black kid who Sandra Bullock helps throw a football. Mm-hmm. You're going to watch those two movies, and then what? You're going to watch Hoosiers next? I mean, how many of these movies that you'd have to watch before any dent was made? Even then, she's sitting there the whole time. You know what she's thinking? The area sucks. Mm-hmm. Well, that might have worked for Rudy, but that's Notre Dame. That might have worked for the blindside kid, but he's 6'8". There's all these excuses.
They're not in my position, right?
Right. And that's what they've already done that. So to think that somehow they're going to take a person who's acting illogically and assume for them to process something logically. So like I see a movie about somebody making a big change. I'm like, wow, that's one of the most inspiring films I've ever seen. Totally crazy that this inspires me. But I thought the movie about Bohemian Rhapsody, that was a goofy gay kid from Pakistan with a huge overbite, and man, he did some stuff. And sure, he had his struggles along the way, but holy cow! Well, all right. I mean, that guy was wearing women's clothing, for Pete's sake. That guy's breaking all kinds of rules, and so he did something big. So I've watched that movie a couple times, and I'm just like, this is really inspiring. But then again, I'm already inspired. Right. Everybody else is sitting there and being like, well, that worked for him. I wouldn't work in a band now. Well, yeah, it wouldn't work in a band now because there's already guys dressing in drag. That's nothing special, right? But at the time, it was a big deal, and I can appreciate that. So that is the folly of sales managers everywhere, trying to motivate, trying to inspire. No. Mm-hmm. That stuff works for people who are already stoked. And I think you should do them. I don't think those inspirational things are bad. It's great for people who are in it. But the people who are already tubed out, they're going to sit there and make an excuse why that's not them. Right.
There was another thing, and this might just be a shared thought, but 17 what is it? Maxwell. He's a writer named Maxwell. What's his name? John C. Maxwell. Our manager had shared a thought out of his 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. And there's a law. Have you read that one?
No, I've read the books.
Okay. Yeah, in his book he's got one it's the law of Mount Everest. And one thing that really, really caught my attention in the manager hadn't even realized what was going on at this point, but the fact that there's always going to be people on the team that, there's the people that are meant to make it to the end, but the team, like, there's people that always stop, right? Whether they leave or whether they just, something comes up or something like that. And what I had realized is, that this particular team member is really just being toxic, and you have to learn to just say, okay, this person is staying behind, right? And it's a process that helps the team actually push forward, But I don't know. It was an interesting.
I love that analogy. I'll take it one step further on that analogy, the Mount Everest analogy. When people are hiking these big giant mountains and these behemoths of these giant pieces of earth, right? You're always tethered and tied to the next person. They do that, so if one person falls, you can pull everybody up. The downside is if you have somebody who's consistently making bad decisions and consistently screwing around and hanging off the edge, that person falls, everyone who's tied to them, what risk do they have?
Oh, they're all going down too, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. And so it's your duty, once again, to do that. So that analogy really is perfect, but realize you are tethered to these people. And losers make excuses. Losers infect other people because their excuses need to be validated. It's not enough for them to go home and feel bad. They've got to tell everybody else, because once they get everyone to agree with them, well, then that's okay. That's why this summer didn't work out so well. See, everybody agreed with me, and I guarantee you that this person, she'll go home and be like, yeah, well, 10 people have already gone home. It's just like that company is so out of touch with reality, like, just like they're just out of touch. Like, okay, all right. All right. No, great story. The owners are still millionaires. Everybody's still making money. Everything's going great. Is it a harder year? Okay. Now what? Well, you're a farmer. You're planting seeds, and what? Just because this year's a little short on rain and weather, that you're just going to throw the whole crop out? No. You go to harvest and you get as much of the crop out as you can. Next year maybe it'll be better. You know what I mean? But you're going to have dry years and you're going to have great years. And I'll agree. I think this season, this location has been rough.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to go home and get a job working at, what? You're going to get a job working at Best Buy? Nothing wrong with Best Buy, but like that's what you're going to do. You're going to go home, get a job working at Best Buy, get paid $14 an hour. Okay, great. So in the end of the day, the situation that wasn't good enough for you, where you could make $100,000 this summer, now you're going to go home and you're going to make $7,000. Okay, cool.
She just settled for mediocrity, and honestly, she actually worked in a call office for a long time, so she actually knows the ins and outs. And she was doing very well when we first got out here. She was one of the first four, but she just started letting those excuses get to her. And
they do, and they harvest and they build, and then every time they're looking for evidence. It's very important to understand this. They're looking for evidence that they are right, and they're not. It doesn't even have to be like logical. You know what I mean? It's like somebody who's like, they apply for the job and they can't get to the job. And it's like, oh, is it because I'm a woman? Oh, it's because I'm Jewish. Oh, because I'm Catholic. Oh, is it because I'm black? Oh, is it because I'm short? Oh. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you literally did a bad job in the interview. And that's why we didn't hire you, because, like that's the reason. But they'll look and search for evidence that supports their pre-existing beliefs. This is very, very common, not only with salespeople, but with our actual customers. And they're not necessarily wrong for feeling that way. I don't believe anyone's ever wrong for a feeling. But I will tell you this, that we have to work around that, and we can use that to understand them better, so we can help them be better at what they do, and so we can help people buy the products they want and they need. People are looking for evidence that things are good. Like one of the most common things in the car world, I remember selling cars, and you get all these ladies and their husbands coming in. Well, I have to have leather. These people are on a budget. They're making payments. I have to have leather. And I'd be like, well, that adds like $40 a month for the payment. You told me a payment was important. Yeah, but leather cleans up better. I've got kids, so I need the leather. Well, you can go to Walmart and you can buy a bunch of car seat covers for $40. So it's not about the cleanup. The truth is, she just wanted leather, and that was the excuse she was doing. Important thing to remember with all customers buy on emotion and rationalize with logic. So emotionally, she wanted the leather, and you had to come up with a reason why. So this employee that you guys had to get rid of, she had already made an emotional decision, and then she was looking for logical backups to support her emotional decision. Understand that, and you understand the world.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Point. That does make sense, yeah.
So nothing you could have done was going to talk her to no amount of motivational movies or talks. The only thing you could do was minimize her damage, and you guys took it to the limit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that's why I sent you that video where just go on one-on-one with people and say, hey, look, you're causing trouble. So, do this or do that. But I think it's great. In a situation like where you guys are at, summer sales is it's so immersed. It's not like working at a regular job where you go home to your friends and your family. You're there. You're living around other people. You're, a lot of times sleeping in the same building or apartment with other people. You're going to dinner with them. So there's all these opportunities to tube everybody out and bum everybody out, right? So a little extremity is not a bad idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, from like a leadership or a manager standpoint, I really wish I could have at least had that discussion with her and saw what kind of reaction she would have maybe have had, but I guess I can almost assume what would have happened. It probably would have been the same exact thing.
We never want to assume, and I agree with you. It would be nice to get to the bottom and give people a chance. I give customers a chance to say no, and I give an employee a chance to say no. It would have been better, in my opinion, to have said, hey, look, here's where we're at.
Yeah,
what do you think? And then you make your decision. And if things don't change in the next 3 days, then we're going to invite you to leave. And sometimes at that point they're going to do that. And it may have just gone that way anyway. And who knows what kind of damage you could have done in the next 3 days. Who knows? It's hard to say. I mean, I wasn't there. But I do know how you feel. And it does feel good to give people a chance to change. It gives them a chance to say, hey, look, here's what's going on. Here's what I've observed. Here's the qualities that you possess. And here's the reasons I'd like you to stay. Here's the reasons why I'm really considering asking you just to leave. And then giving them that chance. And the strong people are going to say, you know what? I do think this area sucks. Okay. But you know what, though? You're right. Because I'm going to go home and I'm going to get a job for $14 an hour or $12 an hour. And, even in a hard area, I'd rather make $100,000 this summer. Even though I can't make $200,000, maybe I can make $100,000 this summer. That's going to be better than the $7,000 that I'm going to rake up. You know what I mean? And just coming to grips with that fact, I think some people can do that. They can be pulled out of funks. But it's not going to come from watching, a video about Will Smith, moving out of the street and getting a Ferrari and becoming a stockbroker. It just won't work.
Rewinding a little bit, you mentioned how much damage she could have done in those few days. We actually did have a rep that decided he was going to quit Sunday. Saturday. He said he was done. Sorry. It was Wednesday. Last Wednesday he decided he was done, and he didn't have a flight home until Sunday. And what had happened is in the past, if someone quits, they leave the next day. They leave the next morning, right?
Right. You got to get. You do have to get them out of there 100%.
Yep.
When it comes to sales, 2 weeks notice, unless somebody's moving on to a different state or something like that, the best thing you can do is get rid of that thing quick.
Yep. Well, and that's how it's always been, because I've seen plenty of reps quit. That's how it's always been, but this was the first time that a rep stuck around, and he did do a lot of damage. He wasn't even trying to, but the team did. They found it as nearly just an escape to just kind of complain and talk about all the bad things. And I'm like, you guys, this rep that decided to quit through a going away party for him. I'm like, what is this? I am not going to this.
No,
this is insane, and I encourage everybody else.
That is insane. No, we're gonna go out and celebrate the quitter. Okay. I've often postulated. This is just something I've postulated. It's just a guess. Sometimes people actually do try to kill themselves, and they kill themselves. Some people, it's just a cry for help. Yep. And I've always believed that if we handled it different as a society, maybe people wouldn't consider it such a great path. Think about this. If every person who tried to commit suicide, regardless if it was right or wrong, was labeled more of a coward and less of somebody that, deserves a bunch of flowers and hugs, maybe that number might change. I don't know. And I wouldn't want to be the person to test it out. It's not what I do for a living. But I am always fascinated, like the school shootings. Don't make these people into heroes, and suddenly, guess what? Nobody's going to do it again. But people hear about it on the news, and so they perpetuate it. They go out and they go out and do likewise. You know what I mean? And, so having a party for the person who's quitting and giving up, I mean, may as well pat somebody on the back for doing something dumb. And then everyone else is like, yeah, you know what? I could see this path out of here, because everyone, whenever summer sales starts, or any business, you've got that. Last month I was a hero. Now I got to start over again. The champs, they just get going, they get working. But people in summer sales, they haven't been selling for months, right? And so they've got to get out there, and they've got to take that thing and just jump into it. You know what I mean? And they're all looking for a reason so they can go back to their family, back to their friends, go back to their apartment, go back to their car, go back to whatever it is they value. You know what I mean? And boy, they signed up for this, and it's just kind of like, shoot. So they're looking for ways anyways to get out of this. They're looking for ways to get out of it, And it's rough. I've been to the team meetings. I've sat down there I've gone trained for people on this on the ground. You know what I mean? I've gone out to different states, and you watch these team meetings, and you do the one-on-ones with the guys. And there's people there the first day. They've already made up their mind. They've made up their mind. and they're going to ruin everybody else's day. As soon as somebody gives them a chance to do it, they're out of there. That's really funny. A party for a guy leaving, and you know what?
Yeah.
It's just damn good.
It was a bunch of first year reps, but I'm really quite shocked. Like me, I knew and like, okay, this is not okay, but the reps did it anyways, the first years, and I'm just surprised that my manager or the other experienced rep never even said anything. I'm quite disappointed I didn't say anything because I knew what was going to come out of it, right? Yeah. I told my roommates, I'm like, no, I'm not going to that. He's quitting. There's nothing to celebrate, and quite honestly, he should just go home. Like we're still operating here. Like we still have the focus that we need, and we're still, I work tomorrow. And it's like it's just totally.
It's a quitter. It's a quitter. It throws everybody in a mood. You know what I mean? It's bad news. That's interesting.
But what's great about it is I did have one of my roommates did go, and one other girl on the team did go, and they noticed all the flaws in it, and so it's made me realize, okay, these are strong reps, and the others maybe not so much, so
the name of the game though always is to keep reps in the field, even if they're not doing a great job, as long as they're not causing any damage to anyone else. Numbers are numbers, doors are doors, and as long as they're offsetting the cost that keeps them to be out there, you know what? It's worth trying to keep them out there. That's a job as a team leader. It's not about blowing people out, but for sure, you've got to be careful about this. And once again, I'll give you points for taking the time to set an appointment and talk through it. It's good. Gives you a chance to pause and think about how you handle it next time. Here's what I know. I know the next time something like this pops up, you're going to see the earmarks, and you're going to snap on this thing super quick. And you're going to shut it down before it becomes a real problem. You're going to get right on it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me about it. I'm sorry I didn't call when I was supposed to.
No, you're all right. I had more time to give, and this is the moment. It's a little bit late, but I take this stuff pretty seriously. I like sales. It's 7:40 p.m. here. What is it? 9:40 p.m. there.
Yep.
I mean, like when it comes time to work and stuff, man, it's just there's no bad time to talk about a problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, kudos to you. But I'll catch up with you a little bit later. But good updates, and I think you've made some pretty big progress. You're turning into a heck of a leader. You're doing great.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yep.
So
I'll talk to you later.
Anyway, cool. Yep. Bye.